In an op-ed published on Monday, President Biden called for sweeping reforms for the Supreme Court, including term limits and code of ethics. The court definitely needs to be fixed, but it'll take more than an op-ed to make that happen. I've got Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins with me to talk about it. Yeah, this is an election issue. I mean, this is just being put out there so we can have people get mad about the Supreme Court. And the problem is that they're kind of really missing the big picture. I mean, people who really believe this is going to happen, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but anyway, let's pick it up and talk about it.
But I do agree with what he says in this op-ed, and I think honestly most people probably do, because term limits for the Supreme Court has obviously been something for many years.
Yeah.
The public says yes, overwhelmingly, let's not give these weirdos a job for life. That's not a good idea, no matter what industry you're in. But especially a situation like this where they can essentially overturn the executive branch, the legislative branch. Let's make sure that these people don't stay in there until their brains turn into pudding.
Well, Ginsburg, I mean, my God, I mean, they hauled her out of there in a wheelchair, on a gurney.
And people were upset when everybody said, hey, if you resign, we could actually not. And then there's always the fights saying, how dare you?
Well, this has zero chances of being approved. I mean, you've got a divisive Congress. They're not going to allow for this kind of thing. There's the idea of saying now that there's something so different about 200 years of history. You see, I mean, as I was reading this article, I got to thinking about the Warren Court. The conservatives went crazy with the Warren Court. If you think about it, I mean, it was all about separation of church and state. It was all about, everything was about civil rights, voting rights. They struck down segregation, policed arrest procedures. These were all good things. But the right went crazy about it. And what if they had raised it then? I mean, they knew then it wasn't even a possibility. Matter of fact, the last time that this is even, that there's even been any, I think it was 30 years ago, Congress, they passed a bill changing their pay rate. The last time there was any kind of amendment to the Constitution, they changed it for themselves. And then they said, we can't do anything else, right?
Yeah, and it really is difficult. I don't think people fully appreciate how difficult it is to get those amendments passed. I mean, the process you have to go through. And like you pointed out, because of the division with our elected leaders, much less division as we've talked about with actual people, the division is in Washington, the division is in the state legislatures. And because of that, you're never going to get your 2/3 or 3/4 that you need to agree on this, because for conservatives right now, that means 2 of your justices are out the door. Bye, you got to go. And of course they're not going to do that. And the Democrats wouldn't do it if it was in their position. So, but again, term limits are good. And the code of ethics. This is the only court in the country that doesn't have to abide by a code of ethics.
I agree with both of those
That's crazy.
Points. There's no problem with term limits. I think the proposal was that every 2 years, a president would appoint a Supreme Court judge who would sit for 18 years, I think is what it was. And that's not unreasonable. It certainly isn't unreasonable to say you have to have your own code of ethics that you have to follow, and you got to play the same game everybody else does. But I guess this is purely an election talking point. We're going to change the Supreme Court. It's bullshit. There's no way I give this zero, maybe even less than zero, of happening. But I guess you can stand up and talk about, I want to do something about the Supreme Court.
Right, because you know that your side is energized about how much they dislike the Supreme Court for obvious reasons. But listen, here's what I tell you makes me mad about this. When Biden came into office, the big issue at the time was you've got to expand the Supreme Court, which is something Congress actually has the authority to do without going through the Constitution.
Right.
Biden sat on it for a year, and then he said, okay, you guys are still yelling at me. I'll create a commission, and they're going to look into it, and then we'll see what our options are. The commission came back quietly months and months later and said, don't touch the court. So Biden had the opportunity, he had the public by his side to actually do something, and just didn't do it. He made the decision just not to do it. So this is hollow for me.
But Farron, it wouldn't be anything. I mean, honestly, Biden has never, ever pointed towards the need to change the Constitution. He just hasn't. He's been very conservative on that issue. And I think what they're doing, saying to him now, look, you're lame duck. You got a speech you can make. You can get everybody jazzed up about this. But the pitiful thing is there are really people that are going to hear this and say, yeah, this is a real possibility. And if we elect Kamala Harris and we put Democrats, this is going to happen. It's just la la land thinking. And I just get, and I think maybe some of it has to do with the way the corporate media talks about these issues. They, like, this really is a possibility. This is not even a close possibility.